I'm not sure what entirely to make of chapter 7 of John. In chapter 7, Jesus goes to the Festival of Tabernacles. He tells his brothers, "You go to the festival. I am not going to the festival because my time has not yet fully come." But then he goes secretly anyway. Why? Who knows? Some people think that Jesus is a good man, and others reply that he deceives the people. And halfway through the Festival of Tabernacles, Jesus went up to the temple courts and began to teach. And as usual, John gives us no insight into what Jesus actually said there, but the Jews were amazed and asked, "How did this man get such learning without having been taught?" And Jesus says, my teaching is not my own, it comes from the one who sent me. Okay, and in this situation, um, this is kind of handy for anybody that wants to use John's gospel as a teaching of Jesus. Um, he can plug in, he can basically fill in the blanks between John 7:14 and John 7:15 and say Jesus and like make Jesus into a sock puppet and tell people whatever they want, what Jesus taught. And so Jesus' teaching is not his own. It comes from whoever is reading John chapter 7:14 through 15. Furthermore, if you choose to do the will of God, maybe you'll fill in the blanks with some good teaching. And if you choose not to do the will of God, you speak, you have him speak on his own? I don't know. This next seems like a fairly false generalization. Whoever speaks on their own does so to gain personal glory, but he who seeks the glory of the one who sent him is a man of truth. There is nothing false about him. Um, this next verse fits in very well with my scapegoat uh, theory. Has not Moses given you the law? Yet no one of you keeps the law. Why are you trying to kill me? If my theory is right, and this is essentially the gospel of Barabbas, the son of the father and the scapegoat, then we we shouldn't be trying to kill the scapegoat because the rule in Leviticus 16:22 says that goat should stay alive. The goat should carry on itself all their sins to a remote place, and the man shall release it into the wilderness. So here, Moses gave the law that they're not supposed to kill the scapegoat. Why would they be trying to kill the scapegoat? Of course, the crowd has no idea what he's talking about, and they ask, "What, you are demon possessed. Who is trying to kill you?" And Jesus said to them, "I did one miracle, and you are all amazed." What miracle is he talking about? So far in John's Gospel, we've got 6 miracles that Jesus has done. He turned water to wine. He drove merchants from a temple with a whip. He guessed that a lady had 5 husbands. He told a man his son was well. He told a man that he could walk at Bethesda. And he shared the food of a boy somewhere around the Sea of Galilee. Now Jesus is saying, I did one miracle and you were amazed. So I guess, is he talking about this one where he drove the merchants from the temple with the whip? Because that was in Jerusalem. This is in Judea. Is that the same place? I'm sorry, I'm not good with maps. Ah, okay. Um, he specifies, if a boy can be circumcised on the Sabbath so that the law of Moses may not be broken, why are you angry with me for healing a man's whole body on the Sabbath? So that clarifies that he is talking about the situation where he told the man to get up and walk at Bethesda to pick up his mat, which was in John 5:8. And from my reading of the story, I didn't get the sense that they were upset with him necessarily for um, picking for walking on the Sabbath, or for Jesus healing him on the Sabbath. In fact, it had nothing to do with Jesus. The man who was healed had no idea who it was. The person they were mad at was that man. They said, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." And it's kind of hard to tell what kind of system they had set up at Bethesda. It sounds like I'm not sure if I believe this story that whoever got into the pool after um, an angel would move the waters um, would be cured of paralysis. But if it were true, it would kind of make sense for them to be a little bit annoyed if somebody just picked up their mat and walked down and got in the pool, um, stealing that chance for somebody that had a more serious paralysis condition. In any case, these people that worked at Bethesda weren't entirely impressed with him healing a man's whole body on the Sabbath, because they were accustomed to seeing that occur throughout the week, because they ran the pool at the Sabbath, and whether it was a confidence game or a real thing, they regularly saw people getting into the water and being healed. I could imagine this guy, the guy that had been an invalid for 38 years, he, you might think of it as that he had an occupation, and his occupation was kind of laying there around the pool of Bethesda all the time. Maybe did a little begging, and every once in a while he'd get down near the pool and do a little performance and help convince everybody that the Sheepgate pool was had all this healing water in it and did these miracles. But they simply didn't do those miracles on Sundays, or I mean, the Sabbath. So when Jesus asks, "Why are you angry with me for healing a man's whole body on the Sabbath?" And then he says, "Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly." So let's make an attempt at judging this correctly. Uh, did he actually heal a man's whole body on the Sabbath? More likely, he told a man to get up and walk who already could get up and walk, but was there, had lived there for 38 years, helping to keep up this scam at the sheep's gate. Meanwhile, why are they angry with him? Why are they angry with him for healing that man's body on the Sabbath? Well, that's probably because they kind of wanted to keep a monopoly on that scam. They don't want somebody else coming along and saying, "Look, I can heal people too, and I don't need the water of the sheep gate to do it." Now, at the same time, John says this, or I mean, Jesus says this random thing about circumcision. Um, and I imagine circumcision would have been a controversial thing back in those days, even as it is still. Okay, but look at verse 20. People are saying, "You're demon possessed. Who is trying to kill you?" And at 26, here he is speaking publicly, and they are not saying a word to him. Have the authorities really concluded that he is the Messiah? So, no, they're not trying to kill him. Um, then they say, but we know where this man is from. From the Messiah, when the Messiah comes, no one will know where he is from. So I'm curious about the logic of the people here. Is John just demonstrating uh, just how completely illogical people are, like a crowd of people is? Here he is speaking publicly, and they are not saying a word to him. Um, uh, that that just means that they are letting people speak publicly. It doesn't mean that they have concluded that he is the Messiah. That's And then they say, we know where this man is from, and when the Messiah comes, no one will know where he is from. And I don't know what Old Testament scripture they're using to uh, be sure that when the Messiah comes, no one will know where he is from. That doesn't seem to be part of the. Uh, well, really, I'm not even sure 100% whether you can be certain that a Messiah is coming by reading the Old Testament. So, anyway, when Jesus says, still teaching at the temple courts, crying out, yes, you know me and you know where I am from. I am not here on my own authority, but he who sent me is true, and you do not know him. But I know him because I am from him, and he sent me. Okay, at this point, they tried to seize him, and um, I don't think they're trying to kill him. I don't think they're trying to catch him. I think what John means by seize here is they're trying to people are trying to understand what this means. No one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. Here's the Greek. They were seeking therefore him to take, but no one laid upon him the hand, because not yet had come the hour of him. So this word seeking, they were trying to obtain, they were trying to seek, they've sought, um, and then to take, piasi, which means seize, take, apprehend. Okay, so I don't have a perfect homonym here for seize, but I think what John is doing is he's playing with words a little bit here, and he's already said they are not saying a word to him. They think he's demon possessed for saying who's because he's like claiming somebody's trying to kill him. Nobody's trying to kill him. And when John does say at this they tried to seize him, they're still not trying to catch him or kill him. All they're all it is that it slipped by you because his statement, what he means here is not what you caught. What he means here is that the scapegoat is not here on its own authority. The scapegoat is here on the authority of the one who uh, releases him into the wilderness. At this they tried to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him. Still many in the crowd believed in him, and they said, when the Messiah comes, will he perform more signs than this man? Well, this is important because it changes things around. As soon as they know that he performed some kind of sign, then he becomes subject to Deuteronomy 13. This says, if a prophet announces to you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder spoken of takes place. So there's two parts here. He announced a sign, and then that sign actually takes place. So, when Jesus announced a sign in John 7:21, he said, "I did one miracle and you are all amazed." But as far as the Pharisees were concerned, that miracle really didn't take place. Most likely, they were aware of the situation at the sheep gate, that there were a lot of people that were pretending to be paralyzed, but could actually walk just fine. But then, when the people in the crowd started thinking that that was what the Messiah is, that's what the Messiah does, he performs signs. And then that prophet says, "Let us follow other gods, like like and worship them." You must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and all your soul. Anyway, this goes on to say that prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord your God. So it makes perfect sense, and it's well within the parameters of Deuteronomy, that at this point the Pharisees heard the crowd whispering such things about him, and the chief priests and the Pharisees sent temple guards to arrest him. And by the way, it doesn't say they want to kill him or something like that. They're bound by the law of Moses to actually arrest him and figure out whether he is trying to encourage people to worship other gods or not. It's their job. Not that I'm saying it's a good job or that job should exist of going around killing people that say, let's worship gods. But what I'm trying to say is John is creating a narrative where um, Jesus is doing things that ties that basically makes the actions of the Pharisees, if they are to follow the law, they have to do what they do. When Jesus says, "Yet not one of you keeps the law," you should realize that the law is that they are supposed to kill him. That's not necessarily a good law, but it's the law. Okay, 32, the Pharisees heard the crowd whispering of such things about him. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees sent the temple guards to arrest him. Now, this word arrest in the Greek, once more, instead of arrest, they have uh, basozen. They might seize. Anyway, it's not arrest, but seize. And I still think that that might be John playing with words a little bit so that it might mean trying to understand, trying to grasp. I'm thinking the English word is grasp. Grasp or seize. Seize can both mean grasp mentally, understand clearly and completely, or it can mean take a hold of suddenly or forcibly grasp. So what are the Pharisees actually doing here? They're not trying to arrest Jesus. They're trying to grasp him because they want to understand. In particular, they're trying to figure out whether um, he is asking people to worship another god. Um, so when they send the temple guards to grasp him, um, Jesus said, "I am with you only for a short time, then I'm going to the one who sent me. You will look for me, but you will not find me, and where I am, you cannot come." And then they didn't arrest him, they didn't stop him. They're just still standing there confused. Where does this man intend to go that we cannot find him? What did he mean when he said, "You will look for me, but you will not find me, and where I come, you cannot come"? All this is to say that they did not grasp him, they did not seize him, they did not understand him. I think if they had been actually trying to arrest him, he would not come back to the festival and say, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." So it's interesting when he says, when Scripture has said. So what Scripture is he referring to? Well, New International Version has an opinion on that. Who believes in me, as Scripture will, oh, maybe it doesn't have an opinion. It has as Scripture has said here, and New International Version here doesn't refer to any Scripture that refers to uh, rivers flowing of living water. For that, let's go to Zechariah 14, where there is a mention of the King, the Lord Almighty, going to the Festival of Tabernacles, and a mention of the living water flowing out of Jerusalem, half of it east to the Dead Sea, and half of it west to the Mediterranean in the summer and winter. And so when Jesus says, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink, whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them," he is saying, he's probably referring to this scripture, Zechariah 14:8, where living water flows out from Jerusalem, half of it east to the Dead Sea and half of it west to the Mediterranean. And so in that sense, because we've made no distinction between the Lord goat and the scapegoat, we also have no distinction between day and night. So that's our unique day, the day known only to the Lord. Because for all this time, there have been some Christians drinking the living water and moving into the Dead Sea, and some Christians who have um, drank of the living water and gone west to the Mediterranean Sea. And on hearing his words, some people said, "Surely this man is a prophet." Others said he is the Messiah. I really don't know which one of those two groups is heading towards the Mediterranean and which is going towards the the Dead Sea, but you can say at least there is some kind of division here created. And then a bit more confusion. How can the Messiah come from Galilee? Whether he's from David's descendants and from Bethlehem? So this is kind of an interesting question, because to most accounts, the story of Jesus is, or the story of Jesus' birth has him coming from, born in Bethlehem, the town where David lived. I think there's even one of the Gospels shows a direct descendancy that goes from David to Jesus, if I remember right. So for John 7:42 to imply that this Jesus is not one of David's descendants and is not from Bethlehem, maybe this is another situation where we got to consider that this is a different Jesus. This is Jesus Barabbas instead of Jesus from Bethlehem. So the Pharisees, they're actually annoyed with the guards for not bringing in Jesus. And they explain no one ever spoke the way this man does. And they're wondering, has he deceived you also? Have the rulers of the other Pharisees? No, this mob knows nothing of the law. There is a curse on them. The trouble is, you're missing a major aspect of the law, um, because there's a curse on you too, because you don't realize that your law says there needs to be a scapegoat. Nicodemus, who had gone earlier to Jesus and was one of their own number, asked, "Does a law condemn a man without first hearing him to find out what he has been doing?" They replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Look into it, and you will find that a prophet does not come out of Galilee." Now, looking at a map, we see Galilee is up here with the Lake of Galilee, or Lake Tiberias. And I think if you read the other Gospels, Jesus lived pretty much all of his life right around here. And then at some point, he traveled south to Jerusalem and went to their Passover feast and died. However, John's Gospel has Jesus going back and forth, going through Sychar and Samaria, and visiting Jerusalem for Passover several times. Anyway, that theory can't be quite right because Jesus was born in Bethlehem, right? And then his parents, remember, he got lost in Jerusalem for 3 days while his parents were moving somewhere. But I think that most of his adult life was spent there in Galilee, or at least during the period after John baptized him. Um, there's no mention in the other Gospels of him coming to Jerusalem until he's going down there to die. However, the Bible tells us almost nothing about the behavior of Jesus Barabbas. What do we know about Jesus Barabbas? We know Jesus Barabbas was a well-known prisoner, and Mark says Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. He doesn't actually say Barabbas committed murder, he just said he was in prison with them. And John's Gospel says Barabbas had taken part in an uprising. In fact, he says now Barabbas had taken part in an uprising. In Greek, it says was now Barabbas an insurrectionist. And I don't even know whether that's supposed to have a question mark or a period, or if by writing it, John is making it so. But another thing we know about Barabbas is it is literally son of the Father. So it makes sense to read John's Gospel as the Gospel of Barabbas. So when the Pharisees reply, "Are you from Galilee too? Look into it and you will find that a prophet does not come out of Galilee," they are perhaps working with limited information, because Jesus from Bethlehem, the Messiah from David's descendant, the town where David lived, does not come out of Galilee. But Barabbas, the son of the Father, is actually right here in town at the, what do you call it? The Festival of the Tabernacles.